The thesis for my project is the Church is against the use of nuclear weapons and any use of fear to control other people. This is backed up by the encyclical summary of paragraphs 130 through 137. Nations must work together to ensure peace and promote the common good. The question on many Catholics' minds is, are nuclear weapons morally evil? As John the 23rd quoted in his encyclical, even though the monstrous power of modern weapons does indeed act as a deterrent, there is reason to fear that the very testing of nuclear devices for war purposes can, if continued, lead to serious danger for various forms of life on Earth. The Catholic Church believes that the end does not justify the means, and the encyclical paragraph summaries 48 through 52, a ruler cannot use threats and intimidation to bind a person's conscience, also backs up the idea that nuclear weapons cannot be used to force people into submission. The argument for nuclear weapons is that they haven't been used since 1945. There's never been a war in which two powers have used nuclear weapons against each other, and bloodshed has reduced since World War II. People believe that the cost of war is obvious and that the threat of nuclear warfare discourages people from starting wars. The argument against nuclear weapons is that if a state has nuclear weapons, it provides rationale for other countries to obtain weapons themselves. As St. John Paul II said, violence of whatever form cannot decide conflicts between individuals or between nations, because violence generates more violence. Also, the summaries of paragraphs 126 through 129 states that love, not fear, must control relationships between states in order to avoid war. During St. John Paul II's time as Pope, he and the Catholic bishops concurred that nuclear weapons could be morally acceptable if deterrence was combined with the steps towards disarmament. Three criteria had to occur. The reliance on deterrent strategies must be an interim policy, not long-term. The purpose of maintaining the weapons was only to prevent others from using them. And finally, the reliance on weapons must be a step towards disarmament. However, the bishops have concluded that since the Soviet Union and the Cold War no longer pose a threat, nuclear weapons are not morally acceptable. We look to God to intercede on our behalf, as is shown in this encyclical summary of paragraphs 166 to 172. We must all pray to God that He may intercede on our behalf so there may be peace on earth. Progress has been made in worldwide nuclear disarmament. The American stockpile has been reduced from 31,175 in 1966 to 4,804 in 2014. Pope Francis is also involved in a negotiation with Iran that will prevent them from using nuclear weapons. The worldview is changing more towards a nuclear disarmament ideal. The summary for paragraphs 46 through 47 in the encyclical states that every state must elect a moral leader to rule in accordance with God's law. This is applicable to nuclear disarmament because people need to elect a leader who will continue the efforts to get rid of nuclear weapons. The diocesan curriculum cites this encyclical in order to back up its teaching that there must be a complete ban on nuclear weapons. It also teaches that the use of these weapons for deterrence purposes cannot be permanent, and disarmament must be the end goal. The detrimental effect that nuclear weapons have on the environment and humanity must be taken into account.